Something has been bothering me lately, and said thing is the ever-burning question of who wrote Potter. Now you may be asking, what's Potter? What's with the abrupt intro? Where's the Steely Dan video? Alright, so let me set the scene. The year is 1971. Supertramp is working on their sophomore album, Indelibly Stamped. Now you may be wondering, who exactly is Supertramp? Supertramp was a British progressive rock band formed 2 years prior in 1969 by founding members Rick Davis and Roger Hodgson. You may know them for some of their hits such as The Logical Song and Goodbye Stranger, which were produced during the band's golden era with a lineup that consisted of Davis and Hodgson along with saxophonist John Helliwell, bassist Dougie Thompson, and drummer Bob Siebenberg. However, what I'm talking about today doesn't take place during the band's success. This was 1971, which was a tough year for the band. Everyone but Hodgson and Davis had left the year prior, so new members Dave Winthrop, Frank Farrell, and Kevin Curry were quickly hired for the recording of Indelibly Stamped, which was Supertramp's attempt to get back into the good graces of their manager and the label after the commercial failure of their self-titled debut. The album was released on June 25th of that year to little fanfare and is now considered one of the black sheep of Supertramp's discography due to its thematic and tonal disjointedness as well as its mostly straightforward rock sound. It's also become somewhat of an in-joke within the Supertramp community since the album's cover is literally a pair of titties, but more because of its inclusion of the band's most infamous song, The Oddity, titled Pop. Potter is definitely Supertramp's weirdest song, considering that it's the only song where neither Davis nor Hodgson are involved in the lead vocals, instead being done by multi-instrumentalist Dave Winthrop, along with the strange lyrics about a sex-addicted crackhead which includes a quite unsavory line that I'm morally obligated not to say. I mean, it's described as a crude piece of British rock in the liner notes for a reason. Now, here's where the big question comes in. Who wrote this song? At first, it seemed quite obvious, since, according to the credits, it was a joint effort between Davis and Hodgson. However, Rick and Roger wrote their songs separately, though they kept the joint credit, similar to Lennon and McCartney. Taking this into consideration, this makes the question almost impossible to answer, since with pretty much every Supertramp song, Davis and Hodgson take the lead vocals on their respective songs, but in the case of Potter, they got the saxophone player to sing it. Now, you may be saying, Winthrop sang Potter, so he must have written it and refused credit, right? Well, that would have been a solid conclusion, if not for the fact that he confirmed in a conversation with a fan that he wasn't involved with the writing. This leaves us with only two culprits, Rick Davis and Roger Hodgson. Now, this mystery could easily be solved by looking at the band's legal documents, with one of them containing a delicate compositions list that separates the songs by writer, but unfortunately, nothing before Crime of the Century is ever listed on it, which means no Potter. Despite it becoming more and more difficult to find a definitive answer, the mystifying quest to find out who wrote Potter still continued, though I now had to make do with what options I had left, the music itself and the internet. Listening to the song, it's a pretty simple rocker, which is not unlike the more rock and blues heavy songs that Davis writes. So you could come to the conclusion that Rick Davis wrote Potter, right? However, Roger Hodgson's website tells a different story, which as a whole seems to be pretty passive-aggressive towards Davis, but anyway. Looking at Hodgson's repertoire, Potter is listed as one of the songs that he wrote as part of Supertramp. Adding on to this is the fact that Hodgson has audible backing vocals on the track. You would think that this answers the question completely, right? Wrong. Even with this incredibly clear answer, it immediately becomes unclear, as the page says that, quote, Roger and Rick actually wrote separately after the album Indelibly Stamped and onward, unquote, which implies that the entire album besides Rosie Had Everything Planned was composed of Davis-Hodgson joint compositions, and is a statement that also goes along with their omission from the legal documents I mentioned earlier. It becomes even more unclear considering that the songs from Indelibly Stamped that I assume to be Roger's are on this list in the first place, which directly contradicts the implication made by the previous statement, as well as the fact that according to Wikipedia, Hodgson and Davis stopped collaborating for a majority of the songs after their first album. Potter also doesn't appear with Hodgson's other songs on the lyrics page of the site, and this whole thing has left me so unnecessarily confused about a 2-minute song where a British guy sings a racial slur. I don't know whether this is the result of a lack of foresight or poor planning, or if this was done on purpose in order to cover up the fact that Hodgson wrote Potter, but this hasn't stopped me from forming a conclusion. So, to answer the question, who wrote Potter? There are a few possibilities that I've come up with. Number 1. Potter was indeed a joint collaboration between Hodgson and Davis as stated in the credits, with Davis writing the music. Number 2. Potter was solely written by Hodgson, but it's hard to tell on the website due to poor planning. Number 3. Potter was solely written by Hodgson and is being covered up on the website, specifically on the lyrics page, due to the racial slur. And finally, number 4. Your mother wrote Potter. Keep in mind, this is mostly speculation, so take these conclusions with a grain of salt. At the end of the day, this was just a dumb thing that I felt like talking about. And with that, I thank you for watching one of the most inconsequential videos ever made. Real content coming soon. As always, I hope you're doing well, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you again in the next one.